Hi team, here to talk to you about what you're going to be doing with the sub today. We're going to take a step back from the exhibition and you're going to be listening to a podcast episode thinking about this merging of our two themes that we've been looking at, language and indigenous societies. So I could yammer on for days about this book, but there are three things that I want you to be thinking about while you listen to a podcast episode of this woman, Robin Wall Kimmerer, talk about the ideas in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. Three things that I want you to be thinking about is they're all things that we have kind of already thought about within this class, but she's going to dive into deeper from her perspective as a Western trained biologist, thinking about how Western science has a lot to learn from Indigenous knowledge. First thing that I want you to think about is this idea that we've talked about, how language shapes the way that we see the world, and we've thought about that from a cultural lens, but I want you to think about it more specifically from a systems lens, so like how science wants to categorize and sort everything, and what that means for the way that we then view the things that we are looking at. First thing that I want you to think about. Second thing that I want you to think about is that Darwin has kind of taken over a lot of the arguments for how we think that things are or that things naturally exist. She's going to make a counter argument that there's lots of lessons within nature itself that shows us that that competitive ruthlessness is not necessarily a part of all parts of nature, like people will commonly say that it is. And then the third thing is thinking about the ways that, going back to language, language not only shapes the way that we think, but it also creates the structure for thinking in our brains. So within Western science, we know that the scientific method is commonly relied on. She's going to be thinking about the roles of narratives and stories. Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit within religious learnings and how stories are so essential to religion. She's also going to be talking about how, she's going to briefly touch on it, how within indigenous knowledge systems, narratives often give an explanation for things that we commonly view as scientific. Okay, I think that's it. Have a good day. What you don't finish, we'll finish later. Be nice to the sub, be nice to each other, be nice to yourself, and I will see you on Thursday.